Hey everybody, this is TF Nut. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Star Wars The Black Series Amazon exclusive Star Wars The Mandalorian, Speeder Bike, Scout Trooper, and the Child set. So this is basically that original 2014 Speeder Bike set revisited here. The biggest difference is that this is an Amazon exclusive and it is $10 more than originally it was back in 2014. I guess the exclusives are just supposed to be more expensive than the retail stuff now, but we do have some differences, of course, like the differences in the colors on the speeder bike because of, it was different in a show. A few new paint details on the Scout Trooper that I can notice, and then we do have a couple of additional accessories, including a Baby Yoda in a pouch. So I do have that previous set that I will bring out, both the figure and the speeder bikes. We can do a compare and contrast quickly in the reviews. But let's go ahead and talk about the packaging here. It's pretty nicely done for a pretty big box here. It's Star Wars The Black Series on the very top, and then a nice backdrop of Navarro in the back there with both figures in the front being nicely packaged, as you can see. Down here it's got some nice orange, that color there. Each of the new packaging has different colors based on the series of Star Wars. This is Star Wars The Mandalorian, Speeder Bike, Scout Trooper, and the Child. Warning, ages 4 and up, and Hasbro. On this side, there's not much going on here. Just at the very bottom, it says Star Wars The Black Series. Little orange slab right there. On this side, though, it's very nice artwork. And we have 3 different types of artwork showing off a very nice image of Baby Yoda, both Baby Yoda and the Scout Trooper, and just the Scout Trooper by himself on the very top there. On the back here, it's really nice. We do have a pretty lengthy read up there if you want to pause and read that right now. It is multilingual. And then zooming out here, it says Star Wars The Black Series, the Child, the Speeder Bike, Scout, of course. Very nice little image that we have of this set. It does say includes Target accessory on the bottom here. I mean, you could get the barcode if you needed to, but it's an Amazon exclusive, so you're not going to really need to. You just have to go through Amazon. But it does give you some slight instructions on how to put the speeder bike on the stand, and on the very top, it does say Star Wars The Black Series and a very nice side profile of the set there. So let's go ahead and get this out of the packaging. So here is the set out of the packaging, and usually I like to play around with the figure a little bit before giving my first impressions, but we do have these ties on the hands and feet that are keeping the figure on the speeder. So I have a feeling that this figure might be a little bit flimsy when it's sitting on the speeder. My previous one is a little bit okay, but wasn't the perfect, of course. I have a feeling it's going to be the same thing here. So I wanted to keep it like this with the ties on the hands and feet, just to show you what it looks like out of the packaging like this, because this is actually a really good looking set. Again, if you don't have the previous one and they restock these on Amazon, it's probably going to be your best bet to finally, if you haven't finally gotten one, to pretty much finally get one. And you get the Baby Yoda accessory, of course. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the accessories that this set comes with first. Then we'll talk about the figure, and then we'll talk about the speeder. So first things first, of course, we get the backpack with Baby Yoda right there. And just bringing out the previous Baby Yoda figure, as you can see, there are a lot of similarities, at least in the head. Now, this right here is literally just the head put into a backpack. There's not much else that they did with this. Some differences in paint, of course. I feel like this is a little bit more of a glossier type of plastic they have for the skin tone, whereas this is more matte. This is the very first, I know it looks actually really bright right now, but this is actually the first edition before they, I think, did touch-ups to the hair when they did a second release. The ears do have a little bit of different paint. I don't think these are as painted fully as this is. I think the eyes are the same. I think the cheeks are actually, they look a little rosier on the backpack version there. So that's pretty cool. You can use this for Mando if you wanted to, or the Speeder Bike Scout, of course. But then you also have this system here, which gives me a little bit of trouble when I try to do this for the first time. It's actually giving me less trouble now. Close that like that. You might be able to pop the head off if you were careful about it, and you could just use this as a backpack for other characters. So that's pretty cool. We have some nice markings right there. I think these are rankings, I believe, or badges. I don't really remember the exact term that they use in Star Wars, the rankings and whatnot, if that's what they are, But it's got some nice red and white, and it's some silver as well. It's nicely painted. The rest is just kind of a plain brown sculpt, though. There's a little bit of wrinkles, of course, which are actually nicely detailed. But like the straps have a little bit of nice detail on the lines, but there's no paint, so it's a little disappointing on that front. We do have a targeting accessory right here. So this thing, it's just molded in this, like, it's almost brownish and black mixed together when it comes to plastic. They kind of try to make it look rusty without really putting any real paint detail in here. Like, it just looks molded to me. If there is any paint, I can't tell. It just looks like it was molded and sculpted like this. So, but that's cool that we get that at least. This fell on my hands earlier. Hopefully I don't have troubles right now. But this is the EC-17, excuse me, blaster right there. It's honestly one of my favorite blasters in Star Wars just because of how compact it is. And I believe it is the same sculpt, if not similar, to the previous one. I can't actually find the previous Speeder Bike Scouts holdout blaster. But this is nicely sculpted. It honestly looks better than I remember. I've always liked the sculpt that they did with the blaster. Now, when you have the figure, of course, it has a boot holster, as you can see right there. And the lighting's not the greatest. Just leave it in like there. It will fall out if this figure bumps into anything. I just did that off camera. But it fits in there nice right now. The Scout Trooper has a separated middle and index finger, so simply all you got to do is just fit the hand in there. It's a little tricky, but as you can see, just like the previous one, it actually holds the blaster pretty well like that. Now I want to just go ahead and bring out both figures just to do a quick comparison. They are the exact same sculpt, same articulation, everything except for the paint. So this is the 2014 version, which I believe is also the Archive Series one. When it comes to like the details basically being one for one, because as you can see, this is not the version that we get with the Archive one, at least when it comes to the paint. I actually feel like there is more paint details on the previous one. You can see some of the lines. There's actually lines sculpted in the back there instead of this. Now, of course, you get a lot more dirt around the helmet, the chest, pretty much everywhere. The knees actually look like it doesn't have that much paint when it comes to the dirt. And then you get more dirt covering the boots. But I like how they did it more in the previous one because it actually looks like dirt. Whereas this, I don't know, it just looks too glossy to me. Something about that. Differences, of course, you can see some additional details in, like, with paint in the head right there. So this could be based on region. Maybe they don't have certain markings because of their outfits in the regions that they have. But honestly, I don't know. The fact that there's not as much certain paint, that there's more attention to detail, like right there on the chest. The red right here on the back, it's not even on here. It's just somewhat of a metallic gray, which isn't bad, but it's just, I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. Sculpt wise, can't complain. Paint wise, I mean, again, more dirt covered all. But if you have this previous version, which I think honestly has better paint apps, wanted to make it dirtier, you could just do that if you know how to do that. Maybe with like coffee grounds or brown paint or whatever. I don't know. I don't really know what to think. But let's go ahead and look at the actual sculpting of this figure. That's unique. We don't get this figure very often, unless, of course, you have the Archive one. It does look good. I always like the sculpt. The way the mouth looks in the visor piece and, this piece right here protruding out of the helmet. I always like the design of the Biker Scouts. They used to be my favorite design until the Scarif Stormtroopers came in. They were always just very different and unique looking. I really liked them. The chest also has some nice lines sculpted, as you can see, right down the chest and around the pecs. Right, and then there's a little bit of variation of paint going on in the abs right there, and the pouches are nicely sculpted. Detail-wise, some areas of the sculpt actually looks kind of soft. I don't know, and maybe it's just because it's glossier. Can't really complain about the black mesh areas. Not really mesh. It's part of the uniform. I don't really know what material it would be. I don't think mesh. But the black is sculpted nicely. One thing I do want to notice or mention is that I'm having trouble doing this. The hands are actually a lot more removable. I just moved the camera, sorry. I would be careful when doing this. I would heat these up, but the previous figure's hands really aren't removable. I was able to pop them in and out easily. This is the second time I've done this, so be careful when you're doing it, of course. Like I said, on the back, again, pretty good sculpting. This neck piece, as you can see right there, where the black meets the rest of the chest armor, is a separate piece. It broke off on one of my original speeder bike scouts. I had to glue it back on, which is interesting. Usually it's all one piece, at least for the upper chest. And then a lot more details going on in the black. Of course, you saw this harness right here. Some nice details. The elbow pads, of course, and the shoulder pads actually have a little bit of variation in the paint. You can see it gets a little bit darker and then a little bit brighter in certain areas. That's also the same for the back. That's why I like the variation at least going on there. I wish it was done a lot more around in certain areas, like this part of the back. It really doesn't have that. And then what else? The boots have a lot of nice wrinkles. I've always liked the sculpting on the knees, and then the holster right there on the boots is also pretty good. You can see on the front there, the back. And then you actually get a little bit more variation towards the bottom of the feet too, where it gets a little bit darker and brighter in some areas. And there's the bottom of the feet right there with great details of the treading. I really like that. And you have two different peg hole areas, of course, because of, sorry about the plastic in the background, because of the different pegs going on right there. So, me personally, again, I don't really know how to feel when it comes to some of the paint apps that they've done this time around. I feel like some areas are better than the previous ones, some areas aren't as good, but articulation is about the same, and it was always pretty good. Head goes up, down, side to side. Actually zoom in for that. Up, down, side to side. It gets a little bit of tilt in there. Arms can go all the way around. They do go in and out. These are soft plastic right here. Upper arm swivel. We do get double jointed elbows. Up and down at both hands. And then we do get a swivel at the wrist. Ball jointed waist. That actually goes back like that. Not really forward because the pouches get in the way. Side by side, sort of. Of course, it can rotate, but it's actually not going to rotate all the way for me for some reason. It's going to look weird if you have it like this, of course. Legs can go forward like that. And sort of back. Not really at all, actually. In and out. Upper thigh swivel. We do get double jointed knees, which are a little bit hard to bend. We do have a swivel here at the boot. Up and down. And an ankle rocker. So I always thought that this figure had a little bit more articulation than the previous figures. And it's usually better for it. It's really nicely articulated. So what are the biggest differences between the previous speeder compared to the new one? Sculpt-wise, as you can see, which the best way to do this right now is have them standing up basically like this, side by side. Sculpt-wise, not different. So we take a look, a lot of, certain areas, like this little turbine right here. And that, just on its own, you can see that's the same. Looking at the rest of it, again, very much the same. It's just mostly the plastic that's molded and the colors that are being chosen. Even in like some of the more mechanical parts, those are also different colors. It's completely different colors. One thing I want to point out, the paint on here is definitely not as good as the paint on the previous one's little seat or backpack, whatever you'd wish to call it. But the overall sculpt has always been pretty good. Just look at this one real quick. Got some nice silver dry brushing right there. The gun. I think I have a few splotches of black on mine, but some of the silver dents that are on this one, as you can see, they kind of look hand painted, but at the same, which look a little amateurish, but at the same time, I think it looks fine too. So the front looks like they have nice variations of the silver going on in there. I dig that a lot. Trying to focus up on there. Again, the sculpt's pretty good. You have some nice, it's a different silver from what's used here. The handles, these were always pretty soft. They're kind of soft on the, they're easy to warp. Similar to the new ones, of course, but as you can see here, just this metallic gray, as well as a red button there, and the seat. I thought this was going to be the same color as this. It's even different. So it's actually a little bit brighter on the new one. And then, of course, you can just tell it's mostly white on the new one. So when we look, again, I already talked about the seat. Not much paint, which is disappointing because you're paying $10 more and you got paint last time. That's what the little control panel, I guess, or whatever, on here looks like. It's one blue dot right there instead of a red dot on the big one. And then you have a lot of this. It's almost like dirt or some type of rust or something. But you have that paint going throughout, spread it across a lot of areas. So there's more of it spread off right here, and there's that red, as you can see, right there. And it contrasts pretty well with the white. It's like an off-white again. I think I've already said that. But what it looks like on the back here, it kind of looks like a glittery plastic in the light when it comes to like the underparts right here. That's what the bottom looks like. There's the gun. Spread out. This paint right here is also spread out again. Just like the previous one, you can detach this if you wish. If you need it compacted or have it to where this looks like it was cut in half or something. There is some details underneath here too, which is pretty nice. So, again, it's mostly differences in the molded plastic and the paint. You can see that the silver or, additional details on the previous one are in specific areas, as you can see. Right there, there. Big dash right here. Well, again, it's more spread out on here. Overall, even though they're the exact same sculpt, I wasn't really expecting much different. In fact, I'm glad it's still the same sculpt, because I always thought that the sculpt for the speeder bikes were pretty solid. Another big difference is the stands that they come with. The previous one comes with this 3 ball peg socket system where you can set it up like this, or this, and you can have it to where, I just flung one of those. You can have it to where the previous one sits on there. It's going to be a little difficult, and yeah, you can do all this. It's actually still sits on here after like 6 years, which is pretty nice, or 7 years almost. Whereas this one here, we have some. It almost looks like they went with like trying to sculpt like air or rocks or something. I don't really know. It's very flowy and soft. It's translucent plastic, of course. It's just one rounded off area. I don't know if I like this. I kind of wish it was the previous one. This one here also sits on there, as you can see. And it's essentially the same thing. It will pivot and all that. So it still works pretty well. So for a quick size comparison on the left, that is the Black Series Mandalorian. That's the best car version. On the right, that's the only Marvel Legends I had on me right now, which is the Iceman figure. And as you can see, they're all pretty good in scale with each other, with Marvel Legends scaling just a little bit taller than Black Series figures. So overall, this is a pretty decent set. There are things that I like about the previous set that I don't like about this one, and which is certain areas of the paint on both the figure and the speeder are better than the set. But I think the paint and the detail is spread out a little bit more when it comes to the new set on both the speeder and the figure. It's a little bit more expensive than before. The original set was $40. Now it's $50, and it's an Amazon exclusive. However, that previous set has been out of stock for years and is pretty expensive on the secondary market. You also get the additional Baby Yoda accessory that we have that you can also use for other figures, of course. You have the targeting accessory, which is kind of useless to me at least. So overall, you are basically paying to get the Black Series speeder bike and biker scout set that you might not have been able to in the past. And even though it's $10 more than before, I do think it's going to be worth it, since, again, considering the secondary market. Yeah, both are pretty solid, and the figure's always been good. If you don't want the speeder bike, you could always get the Archive Series one if that's still in stock. But yeah, it's a pretty good set. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment down below what you think about the video, what you think about the review. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys later.